Hello everyone, my name is Ben.
And my name is Micah.
And welcome to Pass the Podcast, a podcast where we're going to be talking about music and some other shit from time to time, having a little bit of fun, talking about a lot of things on the channel here with you guys. And I'm going to introduce you guys to one of my close friends and our co-hosts for the podcast here. Micah, tell them a little bit about yourself.
I am many things. I am a local homeless man, local nerd, and I used to be an indie bro. But now, still an indie bro.
He also used to be a deathcore kid.
Oh my god, we don't talk about that.
We had the same deathcore kid phase, though, so it's okay.
I mean, mine was edgier.
That's fair,
that was worse.
But I had blue hair, so...
I had blue hair, too.
I don't know, man. That's right. Shit.
Yeah,
right.
dude.
So, I mean, you know,
My hair was bluer.
You're right. Mine was like some fucking seafoam green looking shit.
Yeah, fucking...
Yeah, dude.
Looked like a Smurf
edgy.
just got, like, molded onto your skin, on your head or something.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, so, I mean... Two current indie bros due to the YouTube comments in my case, due to loneliness in his case. And the loneliness is why I participate in the indie broisms to this day. And two former deathcore kids straight out of the pits, very covered in sweat, flapping our arms about.
God.
That's all you really need to know about us. So,
edgiest thing you said today.
I suppose that's very true.
It's preserved forever on the internet, and this is all your fault.
Yes, it is. Isn't that a beautiful thing about the internet?
God, we're losing viewers. See,
that's fine. I mean, I think they should stick around because we're about to say some more stupid shit, more than likely. So now that you know a little bit about us, of course, we are going to be doing a lot of music in this particular episode. We are going to be talking about the last month in music because I didn't do a recap last month. Normally our format won't be 2 weeks of talking about new music in a row, but we got a lot of shit to catch up on from the last little while here. I haven't done any new reviews. I mean...
We were slacking.
Yeah, we were slacking a little bit, but it was mostly me. I mean, you guys know all about it already. We're going to start off with Savage Mode 2 by 21 Savage and Metro Boomin, a very anticipated collab, and somewhat of an unexpected one that just popped up out of nowhere. I think this was way better than Savage Mode 1, and I'm not sure, Micah, were you familiar with Savage Mode 1?
So this is actually the first 21 Savage album I've ever listened to. Before this, I had never heard any of his tracks or anything by him, actually. Not even a feature.
Yes, I have forgotten. He lives beneath a stone. Regardless of that fact, we both listened to this. I feel like we got some different opinions, but I feel like just from the little bit that we've discussed beforehand, a lot of our takes are pretty much the same on here. I really like the beginning portion of this album with the fun kind of tracks. I mean, you got this first half of the album, and all of these tracks are just, you know, somewhat lighthearted, somewhat not taking themselves seriously kind of trap songs that are just really easy to turn on, pretty much just great in any kind of occasion. I've talked about this kind of music that's somewhat, you know, just catchy, fun, but not necessarily anything deep, alright? You know, it's just something you want to turn on to have some fun with. I think that first part of the album was really great for that, and how about the Morgan Freeman interludes?
I don't know if that was actually Morgan Freeman or not. I don't know if we ever
looked
that up. It is actually Morgan Freeman?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Hell yeah, dude. That fucking... The first album slapped, bro. Like, not even gonna lie.
Yeah,
the first part of the album.
Yeah, first part of the album. I mean, you got tracks on here like Runnin', Glock in My Lap. Those are the first two on here. It comes in with a bang. And you got this even better portion towards the middle part where you got Snitches and Rats interlude, which was just this long narration. And it just, you know, it's talking about how a snitch is still a person. And then a rat is just a fucking rat, as Morgan Freeman says on there, and then it goes into that track. But I feel like after Snitches and Rats, like it just kind of drops off, you know? How are you feeling on that second half of the album?
It felt like I woke up the next day after the party, and I actually, like, took home a really fat chick. You know, just that sense of, wow, I really shouldn't be doing this right now.
Yeah, man, it was kind of just like a big hangover vibe, really. I mean, it's like when you party hard the night before and you wake up and you're a little bit too in your feelings, just like realize that you fucked up a bunch. You know, I mean, it's not fun anymore at that point in the album. I mean, I thought some of the stuff on this later introspective part of the album was pretty decent. It's just that it gets like almost too emotive. In comparison to what the beginning portion of the album is. And, you know, diversity in an album, I feel like is not really something that's ever a bad thing. And I feel like you're probably picking up on my Snapchat that's coming through right now. I'm just going to go ahead and silence that real fast. I feel like diversity in an album isn't necessarily a bad thing ever, but I think in this case, it just felt like it lost its momentum. I mean, does that seem accurate to you?
I felt like it was also a little forced. Like, we just came off these, like, just high energy tracks, and then now we're listening to just really, like,
it's just like a
bummer
stuff. I mean, he's on his, like...
He's on his feels.
Like, yeah, he's on his, like, it's kind of street, but still, like, depressed vibe, right? You know?
Yeah, it's like, wow, I should probably get a job vibes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? I think Rip Love was incredibly corny. That's gonna go ahead and yeah, I'm just gonna say that. He's got this, like, FUCLUV thing going on. Like, do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, well, I envy you. My big problem with this album, which, you know, I mean, I'm kind of playing it up right now because I don't necessarily mind these last few tracks on here at all. It's not really like a huge deal for me in that way, but it's just like, I wish that it would have just came out and been this entire project was really instantaneous kind of energetic bangers and just be all really enjoyable fun tracks rather than trying to make me think about some shit, because that's not really what I would come to an album like this for. But either way, I think the last half of this album definitely isn't as good as the first half. I'm sitting there in the second half like, hey, you know, this isn't so bad. I re-listened to this project multiple times because I wanted to solidify this opinion for sure. And, you know, even I just listened to it while driving one day. And I was sitting there listening to all of these tracks at the back end, and I'm just like, okay, you know, these aren't that bad. I'm kind of enjoying these. But then, as anybody who's on a streaming service probably would know by now, if you have it set on the right setting, the Spotify, in my case, will just loop the beginning of the album back. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I just haven't changed my music right. And the intro plays, and I'm like, okay, that lasts like 30 seconds or something. And then you go to Runnin', and I'm instantly just vibing again. Like, Runnin' is such a banger, man. And to see the stark contrast from that track to the last track is so dramatic that it's like, it's clearly front-loaded is really the only problem with it. I mean, how'd you feel about the Metro Boomin production on here? Because obviously that's a really big part of it.
So, I loved the production. I liked the beats. I felt like the beats were good.
Yeah, they were.
I wasn't bored listening to this album, definitely for the first half, and actually, you know what? The entire album I wasn't bored. Even when the tracks I didn't like, there was still something to be gained by listening to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that he really came through on the production. I mean, that's a big part of it, of course. As far as like specific standouts, I kind of like the actual like back end of this album for certain ones on here, because they almost start to sound like kind of vaporwave almost. I mean, that's not really the right way to put it, but it's just the comparison that comes to mind for me. And then, you know, of course, those absolute bangers of tracks in the beginning half. I keep using the same words, but hey, Runnin' especially, just like it just all hits really good. So, anything else to say on the album?
I didn't have a ton to say. I think this is even my first, like, trap album. So I really don't, going into it, I kind of knew what to expect, but I don't know. Overall, it's a good album. I like it. The production's great. It sounds like 21 Savage and Metro Booming actually like cared about what they were making
for
instead
sure.
of just putting something out. I noticed other trap that I've heard. I've never heard a full album, but other trap that I've heard, it's always like, yeah, I'm gonna put this out and not give a fuck.
Yeah, dude, I really liked that it had like a concise length. Seemed like they gave a shit about what they were doing and everything like that. I mean, this isn't really something you can comment on since you haven't heard other stuff from 21 before, but I think this is actually his best go at being a lyricist and flow-wise as well, really. I think that he is the most skilled as an MC on this project as he's been thus far. Like, he's just dramatically improving almost every time. So that was another cool thing I noticed. So what are you feeling on favorite track and least favorite track?
Favorite track, I gave that to Glock in my lap.
It's a good one. Mine is Runnin' on here, and least favorite track for you.
Said and Done. Easily.
All right, mine was R.I.P. Love or Rip Love, however you want to say it. Yeah, I feel like we have pretty much the same sentiment in mind. It's just that we might have happened to prefer a different one different ways. Overall, out of 10 rating?
I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Actually, same. We're on the same page as far as that goes. So, 7 out of 10 from both of us on there. Decent project for sure. All right.
Definitely something I'd put on at a party.
Yeah, totally. Next one on here, if we're ready to move on, is Westside Gunn with "Who Made the Sunshine."
Oh my fucking god! Dude.
So
I'll take this. I'll take this one.
yeah. Why don't you?
This
start
is
us
the
off?
most boring album I've ever heard. I've listened to a lot of like '90s rap and even some newer rappers that try to be the '90s.
Take the dusty sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dusty vibes. All of that. And Westside Gunn. I tried to not skip tracks. I didn't skip any tracks, and it was hard to not because I needed to listen to this album for this podcast. Otherwise, I would have stopped after the first track. I was immediately bored, and listening to the rest of the album felt more like a chore than actually enjoying an album. He should probably stop making solo projects and just stick as features on other people's stuff. And what's the collaborative they're in?
Griselda. And to speak a few words on Griselda real fast, I feel like the come up of Griselda has been hipster critics. I genuinely would like to just state my word on that. Some people who are very fond of Fantano, as well as myself, are probably gonna just fucking be very triggered at that sentiment, because I happen to agree with you to some extent, because I feel like Fantana was genuinely liking some of their stuff, but you see so many Griselda projects that already exist that critics are just like throwing 100s at, all 80s and above and shit, and I feel like every time I have checked out Westside Gunn specifically, I have just been vastly disappointed. You know, earlier this year I gave a 7 to what was the name of that project, the one with like the Roman cover or whatever. Let me look that up real fast. Westside, let's see here, Pray for Paris. I genuinely couldn't remember what the project was called, even if I thought that one was pretty good. Okay, and then he came through with Fly God 2, was it? Yeah, Fly God is an awesome god too, earlier, and I ended up giving that a 5 or a 4, I think, just because at this point I was getting really bored with the formula. I mean, it's like the third Westside Gunn project I've heard, and I'm already just like kind of to this point where I'm like, I really just don't need to hear any more of the same song. I can't remember a single track off that project for the life of me right now, and thinking about this damn new fucking project, man, it actually just like pisses me off. I mean, unpopular opinion, again, probably, sure, that's more than likely. I get that they have their like place. They have a place to be in with Griselda, but I feel like if you're gonna try to do this style, this is not the way to do it, because it just seems like all Westside is trying to accomplish on this project through its entirety is to just make this shit sound old, and trying to make it sound, you know, as like vintage as possible while not really adding any character to it whatsoever. So it ends up just being this bland, monotonous, just like same old shit over and over again. You've got...
If I can sneak in here quick, it sounds like he recorded it on one of those like cassette tape recorders that you can get at Walgreens, or like you're in the back of a Radio Shack, and he recorded it by just rapping into that by playing the beat out of a boombox next to it, trying to be the 90s. I bet this man owns parachute pants.
Just the fake vintageness of it pisses me off so badly, and that's something that I've critiqued a lot of rock music for too, that's just trying so desperately hard to be like 90s grunge, just makes everything sound like shit completely intentionally just so that it sounds old. And I feel like that's a really big thing that this album did. And the thing is, it was so minimal effort. You know, if you're gonna make something sound old, that's perfectly fine, but then make it sound good too. You know, I mean, I look back and I don't see Wu-Tang as fucking boring, dude. It's like, if you're going to go for the classic stuff, then make it sound as good as those and make it seem like it has as much effort. Because essentially what I end up hearing on this project production-wise all over it just ends up being piano loop, some like dusty crackles, maybe some percussion if you get like lucky, and it just loops and loops and loops the entire way through for 8 minutes at the longest track. I mean, I think there's a beat switch in that track, but it's very minimal, you know?
It sounds like he listened to Immortal Technique and Jedi Mind Tricks and was like, yeah, man, that, but bad.
I mean, you got Black Thought on here, all right? You got a lot of those older names even just coming on here. I mean, Slick Rick's on here. There's a lot of features, which was another thing that kind of just made it really difficult to deal with.
Maybe he added all those features because he knows his skill, and he was just trying to maybe save it with the features.
I mean, you know, whatever you want to look at as far as that way, I feel like he can rap, but he certainly doesn't fucking want to on this project, because there is features on every single track, and sometimes multiple features. At the biggest being Stove God Cooks, Flea Lord, SD Knack, El Camino, and Smoke Dizza. And that was the biggest track, and honestly, I'm not really familiar with most of those names, but it was kind of a posse cut, I get that. But, I mean, you got tracks with 2 features all over this thing. The last one has 3. And really, it just ends up feeling like a cobbled together mess because you're never hearing the same voices back to back. What did you think of that Busta feature, speaking of that? That was one of the most interesting parts.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't remember that, like, out of the album because I just got so bored. I just wanted to stop listening to it. Was the Busta Rhymes feature, was it later into the album, I'm assuming?
It was track 7, Ocean Prime.
Yeah, no, by track 4 I was already like, wow, I'm gonna shoot myself.
Yes, Slick Rick does nothing on that track, but Busta Rhymes does something, and it's not good. Like, he just sounds gravelly, and not in the good way that Busta Rhymes usually does, and he's doing the crack talk like everybody in Griselda tends to do, but Busta Rhymes never did that before, so that's why it's like
might have been there for the
out of
check.
place.
I can't blame him for that.
Yeah, right. All right, but I have to give it one thing. Track 9, or I'm sorry, not track 9. Track 10 and 11 were okay. Good Night featuring Slick Rick, the second appearance from him on here, I thought was okay. Had some good imagery on that track, a little bit of storytelling going on. It's kind of like one of the most disturbing ones that ends up matching this weird-ass drawing on the cover with all the blood on it and shit. And then 98 Sabres, I kind of thought that one was a banger. It's the Griselda posse cut, like the second one on here, because it's got Benny the Butcher, Conway the Machine, And it's got Armani Caesar, who's new to Griselda, and I think she absolutely kills it on this verse, but I feel like you were probably already tuned out of the album by that point.
Yeah, no, I was done by track 4.
Yeah. So I feel like that's all we really got to say about it. This thing pisses me off more and more every time I think about it.
Actually, I have one more thing to say about this album. I feel like the people who would give this album a 10 are those same people who share those Joker memes on Facebook. I don't know, you don't really use Facebook, you're not a boomer like me. But
I know exactly what you're talking about, though. Yeah, fuck that. Fuck that whole album. And at this point, Westside Gunn either really needs to stop making 3 albums a year or start making them good. One of the two. Because I'm really tired of fucking hearing them.
God, I don't think I want to review another one if it comes out.
Yeah, favorite track for me is easily 98 Sabres. I said it was kind of a fucking banger already. It's the Griselda Posse cut. It's a good one. There's always going to be one of those on a Westside project, and, you know, I mean, that was the better of the two on here. Favorite track for you?
I couldn't pick. They're all equally trash to me, but I do remember towards the end of the album, I think it was the Benny the Butcher feature, there were like a few parts of that track that I liked.
Sabres.
Alright,
that's the same one. That's the closer.
I'll have to go with that then.
Alright, cool. And then least favorite tracks for me is Liz Loves Luger, the one that I was just talking about. How about you?
Mine would have to be the opening track.
The opening track was... I forgot to even say it. The Alchemist produced on this. Can you even...
What?
Where? You know what I mean? Like, I heard the beat tag and I'm like, what the fuck? What is he doing on here?
I love the Alchemist.
I think it's 3 and 4 or something like that. I know 4 was... I know All Praises was him. Because you can hear the little beat tag. I totally forgot to mention that. But yeah, he's on this. Dude, so really, this just brings out the worst in everyone, because the Alchemist production is the same, like, piano loop trash, and Busta Rhyme on here also should have been a really great feature. Black Thought as well, but they just put out some really unmemorable stuff on here.
God, I mean, I guess everyone has to have a mistake.
Yeah, alright, so to close it off, 2 out of 10 for me.
I gave it a 3, because if you smoke crack and live in a trailer, you might like this album.
For real. Alright, cool stuff. So to move on to another part of the Griselda collective, we got Benny the Butcher here with Burden of Proof. Now, initially, I know you hated this album, but I know that you were also coming straight off of listening to Westside Gunn, and maybe you were just in a state of mind where you're like, wow, I really don't want to listen to more music, especially from this collective. So I told you, when you're like, wow, I also hated this one, I mean, we try to keep our conversation of the albums we're going to talk about on the podcast pretty minimal until we're doing the podcast, but still, he ended up saying he hated this one, and I thought that was fucking weird, because I loved it, so I told you to re-listen to it, you know, and you were probably going to anyways, I think you said, but...
Yeah, I ended up hearing it 3 more times.
3 more times, yeah. What ended up being your thoughts on this Benny the Butcher project?
So, after coming off of the Westside Gunn, I hated it. I needed to stop listening to like just music in general. It just ruined my whole day. But New Day, listened to the album, and holy shit, was this such a good album!
Hell yeah!
Like, oh my god, bro! I'm so glad that I gave it another chance, because that would have been like the biggest mistake of this month, at least.
Yeah, dude.
The flow was great. Loved the beats. I could tell what he was going for, and it was done well. I don't think there's any tracks where I didn't like it. Like, I liked every track. I don't think there's any tracks that were just inherently garbage.
Not at all.
It's definitely something that you can always throw on. Never going to be a mistake listening to Benny the Butcher's new album. Burden of Proof.
Absolutely. With the heat that Conway served up on his debut album just a couple months ago, I was sitting here waiting to be impressed, alright? I certainly was. This is probably the best Griselda project I've heard thus far. I mean, this just, yeah, front to back, every track, solid production, really solid lyricism. Benny the Butcher is great as an MC all across this track. I mean, he's just got the skill, the lyricism, the technical ability, really great stuff on here. I thought the features on here were great as well. A lot of good stuff just all over this record. I think that it kind of has... The one thing that I would say about it negatively is that it kind of has the same thing going on as that 21 Savage project we just looked at, where it was front-loaded with slow cuts at the end. And I feel like I've seen that so many times with albums where it's like getting a little tiring, but on here it fit the narrative, it fit the theme, it fit what this album felt like it was going for, which was really good. That was really cool. It's just that I wish it didn't feel front-loaded to me. The beats on here,
hate to agree with you. Hate to agree with you with that. That's definitely front-loaded.
Yeah, that's the only thing about it that's kind of a shame. But I feel like the slower cuts on the back end of this album have their place as well, for sure. I mean, which one was it here? I'm gonna look. What were you thinking about the production on here, though?
Production,
like specifically,
I felt like it was above average. Not the best production I've ever heard in my entire life, but it was definitely amazing. Like, I've heard better, and I feel like there was a few places where he could have, I don't know, sounded more crisp. I know what he was trying to go for, like the nitty gritty, like this is real rap, but I don't know. It fit in some places, and I could, a couple times during the album, I was like, man, he really could just sound a little less, I don't know what the right word is.
A little less than 90s, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, like,
yeah.
He's definitely trying to keep up with the times. He's definitely like,
But that is kind of the Griselda aesthetic, and you have to respect it to some degree, just because they just like them really filthy beats, you know? I mean, it's just kind of usually how it goes. But Conway and Benny here have modernized the style way more with their production. I mean, this isn't some dusty piano loops like that fucking Westside project, alright? It's just that some of the stuff isn't super futuristic sounding. It's pretty bare bones here and there. But that first half of the album, you know that like just the guitar riff that loops at the beginning of the first track? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fucking fire. And then it beat switches like right away, and you just got this really hard beat. And that ends up continuing on for at least the first half of this album. Some of the slower stuff on the back end really still sounded good that way as well.
I definitely feel like it teetered off towards the end of the album, and like I lost interest in I think only one track, and I think that was rated my worst track off the album, but by itself, still a really good track.
Yeah, I thought the Griselda Posse cut, Warpaint, was pretty good on here. Not one of their best ones that they've done, and, you know, of course those are going to pop up on every Griselda project for the most part, but I thought it was pretty good on here. Oh, shit, what about that Freddie Gibbs feature? I mean, I feel like we both are Freddie Gibbs fans at this point. What did you think of his performance on One Way Flight?
Fucking bars, man. Like,
Yeah, dude.
I was impressed. I was worried that I don't think I've heard him feature on a track, at least not in a long time. So I was a little worried, because I do like a lot of the solo stuff.
He usually gets the features rather than doing the features. I don't know if I've ever seen him featured on something. I'm probably spacing on a few pretty crucial moments in his career where he was. But yeah, worked really well in that regard for sure. I liked him on the hook, and I was like, all right, well, that's a pretty simple hook. You know, I'm okay with it though. It's a good little way to incorporate him into the track. And then he has a verse, and his verse is fire. Absolutely loved it. That was really killer. I do think though that both Lil Wayne and Big Sean could have done way better on Timeless. Would you agree?
I don't know. I did like Big Sean's part. Lil Wayne, yeah, definitely could have been better. But I don't know if I would have changed Big Sean that much. Yeah,
Lil Wayne is on the downward lately. I mean, I think so anyways. Funeral wasn't very good. And then didn't he just like endorse Trump or some shit? He was getting canceled for something.
He gets canceled in a couple years.
Yeah, man. Lil Wayne's on some fuck shit right now. But whatever. All right, well, I feel like we both definitely are kind of at an understanding with this one again. Favorite track on there?
So my favorite track would have to be... it'd be Thank God I Made It.
All right.
Really liked it. I liked it. It was a good come-up story. Really, definitely.
Yeah, dude, I dig the come-up stories, too. It feels like there's a lot of them, but they don't really get old.
Yeah, no, definitely not when Benny the Butcher is doing it like this.
Yeah, and he feels genuine in the shit that he's saying, too.
Yeah,
and that's something I like about that one. Least favorite on there?
Least favorite? I didn't like the posse cut. I didn't like Warpaint.
All right. I mean, you probably were just having PTSD from the fucking Westside Project, to be honest with you, but I thought it was...
I listened to it 3 times, just in case. I didn't like that track any of the times.
I gotcha. Yeah, it's not one of their best posse cuts, but it is what it is. Favorite track for me is Sly Green. I think the beat is super hard on this one. I love his flow on this track. Just everything about it really hits hard for me. Really one of my favorite rap songs of the year. I will stand by that till the end of it. I mean, we got a month left here. That's getting on a list somewhere. I think One Way Flight was a close second, though. With Freddie Gibbs, close second. Just want to give a nod to that one real fast. But least favorite track on here for me was New Streets. I don't have a lot to say about it. That was the only track that kind of bored me. So that was the only one, and it's one of those slower cuts on the back end. Just didn't really appreciate it that much. All right, so rating as a whole on this Benny the Butcher album.
So I actually gave it an 8. I gave it a high score, but I don't know if I would put this album as a whole on any I wouldn't give it the best album of the year. I think it might land at the bottom of the top 5, though. I love this album. I mean, it's a great album, but there's some fucking hard contenders this year.
Dude, yeah, and you're missing 10 months of music. So there's that. But we'll try to catch you up by the end so we can have a discussion on our top 10 and whatever. But it's an 8 out of 10 for me as well. I can totally see it landing on my top 50. That's going to happen. No doubt about it.
Oh, this isn't top 50 material for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be higher than the top 50 in my prediction here. But, leaving the discussion of album of the year talks out of it, 8 out of 10 for sure. I liked it a lot. Good stuff on this. Best Griselda project I've heard yet. Solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, so moving on from that, let's talk about this fucking Corey Taylor butt rock album, CMFT.
I'd rather not.
Wouldn't everyone rather not?
It's
so
Gunn, but
bad.
If I wouldn't have taken notes on this album, I would have been like, wait, Corey Taylor drops a new album.
Yeah, you could listen to this thing 10 times and still not know it happened.
Do you like Nickelback a lot? This album will be.
Well, this is the Nickelbackiest Nickelback to ever Nickelback.
I mean, at least Nickelback. I don't know. I hate this fucking album, dude.
This is more Nickelback than Nickelback.
Oh my god. It's trying to be so goddamn it. I love Corey Taylor. I love Slipknot. Stone Temple Pilots is good, but this album.
You mean Stone Sour?
Stone Sour, dude.
Stone Temple.
I never could be a wise man.
Very, very fitting reference there.
I get them all mixed up. Anyways, this thing is just it's fucking edgy, man. It's edgy dad rock.
Oh my god, it's so edgy. That was one of the worst things about this.
I'm pretty edgy, you're pretty edgy, but this is fucking edgy. It's for that dad that wears that bandana on his head and still goes to see cover bands. It's definitely a cover band vibe. I felt like if
this man would cut a dick off for a Nickelback ticket.
Jesus Christ, yeah. If you told me that this was a shitty cover of some other album, I'd be like, oh yeah, alright. Makes sense.
Absolutely, dude.
It's well produced though. That's the worst part. It didn't sound like it was clear. The production he did a good job. It's Corey Taylor, so it's gonna be produced well.
I mean, but there's a lot of people who had a hand in it. reasonably speaking.
That's fair. But the contents of the album is atrocious.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
Stop. Everyone has a mistake in their career, though.
Yeah, I don't know how many of them usually get this bad, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, you got the track Culture Head on here, going back to things being super fucking edgy. This is so, like, 13-year-old atheist on here, but then it has a fucking deathcore breakdown. Like, the track was heavy. And it's the heaviest one on the album, sure. But if you go immediately before that, you have 2 country songs. And that's the worst part. Is like, these ones are... They're actual country songs. But they're right up there with the radio country bullshit that usually gets passed around. And it's all cliches. It's all cliches.
What a Hallmark movie of an album.
It's nothing but cliches. Like, everything has been done to death on here. Did you notice how there's a guitar solo on every but one track?
Yeah. I was like, wow, he's really trying to fucking jam.
God! None of them are good. No. Not a one.
He's doing his best. Actually, he's not. That's a fucking lie.
This is what I would call one of the worst albums of the year, if I'll even remember it in 2 more days.
Hold on. Westside Gunn made an album. It's not the worst album.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of the worst, if I'll even remember it happening 2 days from now. I feel like this is what happens when you're surrounded with yes men and people who want you on the radio. Because nobody fucking bothered to tell Corey Taylor, hey dude, this is really shit. I mean, his manager, of course, whatever, record label executives are going to be, I don't know, who the hell knows. Maybe this is independently released. I can't even tell you for sure. But any commercial people are going to be telling him, yeah, man, this is great. Go do this. Because they know it's going to get on the radio because it's cliche as fuck. But I feel like somebody somewhere should have really told him that he made a Nickelback album, and not a good one. Not one of the better moments from Nickelback on here.
So I just pulled up the album right now, and I feel like there was some foreshadowing on how fucking edgy this was gonna be. The first track is Highway 666, and then there's a track called fucking Kansas.
Man, I worked in a hot
Everybody dies on my birthday.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that one.
CMFT
so edgy. I don't even know if it's
Tech
literal.
9? Tech 9 was in this fucking album. Why Tech 9? I mean, Tech 9 does do.
You didn't notice Tech 9 being there?
No. Who the fuck is Kid Bookie?
Nobody good. That's for goddamn sure.
Real quick. Ooh.
That before I go on my other rant, I'm gonna talk about that fucking track. I think it's the title track, right? Oh no, CMFT must be stopped. Can you imagine being a guy, like, what if I just put out a fucking track tomorrow and it's called Pass the Motherfucking Aux Cord Must Be Stopped. And it's just these big boy riffs and some of these hard lyrics about how I'm just gonna fuck shit up.
Yo,
and I get Tech 9 on the track. At least Tech 9 knows his audience, alright? I'm just gonna put it like that.
I feel like this is the kind of, like, when he wrote that song, it was with the attitude of someone who, I use the thicker strings on my guitar because it's more metal.
Yeah, dude. It's so bad. Just like making a track that's called You Must Be Stopped. Like, as in you're just calling yourself some kind of fucking badass just because it's cool, I guess.
Okay, so I'm kind
of fucking cringe, man.
I'm kind of an idiot, but I just realized that CMFT is Corey motherfucking Taylor.
Yeah, that's another thing about that basically title track there. You can't really hear them say it. It's just like, Corey motherfucking Taylor. Like, it's just like in the background there. And it's so hard to pick out. I don't blame you for not hearing it right at all. Because, yeah, it's so fucked up.
He just released an acoustic single.
Oh, God.
It came out. It came out on the 21st.
Oh fuck, man. I was going to say before, I feel like I don't want to cut off this statement, even though it no longer really applies. I was going to say before, I used to work at a Hot Topic, and I never saw a kid come in who was as edgy as this fucking record.
And you were there, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I was there too. I was there well over a year ago, and I've gotten progressively less edgy as the year went on.
That's cap.
It takes a lot of effort, but whatever.
You're right
so, favorite track on here? If you got one. No.
Doesn't exist.
Mine is Mine Lux. I think I'm pronouncing that terribly bad. It's catchy, I'll give it that. You could play this in pretty much any setting and it'd be okay. Least favorite track for you?
Everyone Dies on My Birthday.
That's a close one. Kansas for me. Can't fucking stand it. Boiled full of cliches, man. It's just baked into the very psyche of this track that it needs to be cliche. That's what bugs me about it. Overall rating for you?
I gave it a 5 out of 10 because it looks like I hear, like, hey, it's put together well, but it sounds like shit.
Technically it is. Technically it is.
It's not an album. It's just some guys saying like, oh look, I can produce well, but can't make good music. That's how I see this album.
2 out of 10. Another one.
I was being too generous with 5, and I know that before you castrate me.
Yeah, dude. That was not good. Not good.
No, not good.
All right. Yeah, let's just mention Fantano one more time in here,
dude,
before it's too late and we can't ever mention Fantano again. So moving on to something that I'm sure you're much more fond of talking about. Let's say a few things about this Open Mike Eagle track
oh hell
Open Mike Eagle album.
Fuck yeah, dude! It's woke rap, and I'm really white. I loved it. You
aren't lying about that really white part.
Yeah.
You got that much covered, and that's
I've been a
most
long,
you can really say about it.
Long time Open Mike Eagle fan. I felt like it's his best album, and like dark comedy, fucking 10 out of 10. But I like this album just a little bit more. And dark comedy hasn't aged the best, I don't feel. But we're talking about anime, divorce, and drama. I think we mixed that word up. Fucking.
I think it's hold on. It's anime, trauma, and divorce, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like tragedy was in there somewhere. I don't know. I might be fucking up the list.
This up real fast. Hold on. Because we'll put this part out. Or not.
Nah, probably not. Let's be real here.
It's anime, trauma, and divorce.
Okay, I had it right. I felt like this album was... Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Alright, I felt like this album was really relatable, and that's one of my favorite things about it. I thought that Mike came across on this album as somebody really relatable. He's just a dude who's rapping, and comes across that way. And there's other people in similar positions that I've liked for that reason as well. I think that part of it came across really well. He has such a great personality on here. There's a couple really good hooks. I thought that some of the tracks had that in mind, but I wish there was way more hooks. How do you feel on like the actual song structure part of things?
When it comes to song structure, I feel like he fucking killed it. I feel like he was trying to tell a story, and he's also a comedian, so I feel like he was just trying to do more so that format of like almost spoken word but still rapping rather than traditional rap songs. So that's why I didn't fault him for not having a lot of hooks. He's still a comedian.
I wasn't aware he was a comedian.
Yeah. That's how I found out about him. I watched one of his stand-up.
Oh, alright.
I liked it a lot. And just like the stories of the song, like a really good track, like Head Ass. Just talking about like
yes,
woke
love
rappers.
That one.
There's woke rappers everywhere. I'm a woke rapper.
I felt like on that track he was talking about just like feeling like a dipshit too.
Yeah.
Which is a very relatable point of view, I
Like,
guess.
felt like he's just talking out of his ass sometimes, like I often do.
Yeah, and that was one of the most relatable moments, and I feel like that one had a really good hook. Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it did definitely.
That one was the best. The only two that had like predominant hooks is Death Parade, which I actually didn't like. I think track wise it's like 4 out of 10 track wise, but Head Ass had a hook. Joestar had a hook, and I don't think, and Black Mirror Episode. Otherwise, I don't remember. There wasn't at least
Black Mirror
an
Episode was one of the best ones on here.
Easily. I know. Oh yeah, What the Fuck is Self-Care is basically all hook. It's What the Fuck is Self-Care.
Oh,
that's
well, it's not. Yeah,
it's his old style of just like finding a topic and just beating the shit out of it, and I actually enjoy that. I think
that was definitely one of my favorites as well. That comes across to me as one of the most relatable moments on the album again, and it's very conscious. You know, he's self-conscious. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing as far as a track like that goes, and I like that a lot about that one for sure.
And when it comes to one track that hit me in the feels the hardest is Everything Ends Last Year.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah, that one.
That one is almost made me cry.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I fucking feel that, dude.
Yeah, and it really he's kind of on some quarantine jam vibes on there, right?
Yeah, dude.
You know, he's kind of talking about that whole life and where we're at in the world right now, which is pretty crazy.
And I know I'm a Joestar. I definitely like felt that I feel like it's part of the going stir crazy because he just wants to be something big and wants to be like important, when honestly I feel like he's pretty big and pretty important, but doesn't want to live in the life he's currently living in, if that makes sense. Like he isn't happy with himself.
Yeah, and he's finding something to relate to in the, it's from an anime, right?
Yeah, it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Like
right.
People relate to him, but he feels like he can't relate to anything else.
Yeah. Thought that was a cool one as well. I think it's important to give a nod to the closer on here with his daughter. I thought that was super cute.
That was adorable.
I love that. Yeah.
It was a 15-20 feet ocean now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was such a fun way to close the album off. It was so wholesome. And I feel like he really couldn't have closed it off any better, because it just like, it makes you smile on the way out, and you know, kind of still keep your head up kind of vibe, despite a lot of the really sad stuff that was described on this album. My only problem with this one is the issue of it not really having songs. I guess it's good as an album. It's a good experience. It's good to listen to, but I don't really feel like putting on a specific song from this. You know, I feel like it just doesn't have a lot in the way of production and song structure. It's just a lot of lyrics being laid out. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, it's kind of open mic's format. He tends to, it's like an audiobook with a beat.
Yeah. That's about how I feel about it.
That's just kind of how he is. I noticed that most of his stuff, he's not really trying to be like a rapper. It's I think he definitely sees himself as more of an artist than like a rapper.
I do appreciate that to some degree about his music, but I just wish there was a little bit more. And you know, so you'll know where I'm coming from with this, but I don't know if the general audience will. I'm not sure if anybody here is really going to know who he is, but Kari is a somewhat underground rapper that we're both into.
Oh, yeah.
I showed him Kari. You see where I'm going with this comparison,
yep.
Right?
I know.
Kari still has songs heavy. You know, like, I can take any track from any of his albums, listen to it on its own. It's a really, really great experience by itself. Has a good hook. Has catchy lyrics, has, you know, it's got a certain charisma to it where you can just kind of jam out to it, or you can be kind of introspective to it. I mean, my favorite song from him is Tidal Graves, and I feel like, you know, that's a really great example of what I'm saying, where it's super introspective, but it's just kind of a vibe too. And I wish I had the vibe half of this with this album. But
yeah, I get that. Like you're looking for more music and like
actual,
like,
I guess
music.
so.
And yeah, like I would. The reason this didn't get a 10 for me is because like as an album, this will never. I don't think Open Mic is capable of getting like an actual 10 out of 10 for being an album, because his style is always going to be just like a book, like an audiobook.
He could probably make a 10 out of 10 book.
Oh yeah, like if this was a book,
Hell
or
yeah.
at least like a bunch of short stories to a beat, easy 10 out of 10.
Dude, I don't know if he has
Or
a
like
book,
a poem.
but I would read one by
This
him.
is more poetry.
I don't read books.
A poetry book.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good way to put it.
So if you're into poetry, you'll love Mike Eagle. If you're looking for rap, I would say listen to What the Fuck is Self-Care and I'm a Joestar, and then maybe listen to the rest of the album if you want to, but like you're not gonna enjoy it.
Black Mirror episode is good for that one.
Oh yeah, easily.
One of the most depressing tracks on the album, but
I love it. It's the most depressing, but it sounds just fucking crazy. But not like trap crazy, just in general, insanity.
Yeah, right. Favorite track on the album? If you don't have anything else to say about it specifically.
Yeah, I would have to give that to Black Mirror episode.
All right, I actually have the same one, so that's crazy. I think that the closest runner-up for me is What the Fuck is Self-Care, though. I think that was a really close runner-up.
Oh, my runner-up... fuck you, fake big runner-up. But my runner-up is... Oh, my God, I can't. Probably... Everything Ends Last Year.
Yeah, it's a good one as well. For sure, man. Yeah, least favorite track, if I can speak.
Death Parade.
Death Parade? Alright. Mine is The Edge of New Clothes. I get where he's coming from with it. Didn't stand out to me, though. Especially sonically.
Yeah, I wouldn't give that... I wouldn't say that's the worst track. It's a medium track, though. It's like lukewarm.
Yeah, I guess I was definitely lukewarm on it, but I don't really dislike anything on this album either. So I'm kind of, everywhere with it.
Yeah,
but overall out of 10 rating?
I'll give it an 8.
8? I'm feeling a 7 on it. It's a really good 7. I just wish there was more in the way of song structure, because, like we kind of already went over, you're kind of just looking at it with his style. I'm like, if you made your style a little bit more music-y, I'd be more of a fan of it. But still a really good 7. Love some of the lyricism on here, especially. Pretty good stuff regardless. So next up is one that I'm sure you're at the very least excited to talk about, and I'm excited to talk about as well. So Dorian Electra with My Agenda.
Oh yeah. So this is probably my album of the year. Fucking slaps, dude.
Yeah.
An opener, F the World with the Garden. Holy shit.
That garden feature was so good.
They didn't say much, but it was, I can't. It was so good. I know you had a complaint where you don't like, you felt like they were censoring themselves and I said F, but that's just the style, bitch.
Something about it bugs me.
You're fucking wrong. That's what you are.
It drives me crazy though.
Good.
When they say F instead of fuck. It happens a lot on this album, and I don't know if maybe they were just going about it in a way where it's like, we don't want to put excessive swearing on this or something. I don't get it. Do you get it?
I get it, because we had this conversation before too. I know we shouldn't have, but we did. Where you felt like this album was a straight man hating the gays and then turning out to be gay. Yeah,
basically, especially at the end there.
I feel like that makes when they say F instead of fuck, I think that makes sense then, because homophobe people who are like traditionally super Christian don't usually swear.
Shit.
So yeah, see, did I blow your mind, bitch? Do you know how
Oh,
hard
damn!
I had to save that point?
Because they
and I
do
did not
swear
tell
on the
you?
last track.
Yeah, they do.
Oh!
Because the last track's
damn.
gonna fuck in your throat.
Okay.
And comes.
Yeah, I'm feeling this now. All right, actually, that
Change your
that
mind,
slaps.
bitch.
I like it. All right, I love it. Actually, you totally turned my perspective around on that, because that's a lot. That has to do with a lot of it. Now that you say it, that definitely seems accurate.
I feel like this is an album working out. We can skip over a couple tracks, but I feel like we should at least talk about how we think Barbie Boy is a sequel of Career Boy.
Yeah, actually, dude, like, there's not that many. Let's just, like, blast through each track real
Blast
fast.
through each track real
So,
fast.
After
Alright,
the
we'll
World, we already kind of talked about, conveniently. It's the longest one on the album, but it really gets you in the mood of it, where it's just, like, crushes you with the fucking electronic elements of it already, like, just that early on. And it kind of does introduce you to this narrator who's just really mad at the world. And that kind of is cool. And I feel like the narrator kind of switches back from being Dorian to this person that they imagined, this very, like, edgy, homophobic, transphobic, fucking loser person, incel person as well. Because you go to My Agenda, the next track, and I feel like this is just maybe just Dorian talking on this track.
I think My Agenda is the homophobic guy talking on the track, thinking that the gay agenda and all that.
Right, but it's almost like, at least I thought it was.
I think it's both. I think it's what
it was almost Dorian saying that the quote unquote gay agenda or whatever might offend people, but it shouldn't, and they don't care that it offends them.
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
Right. Okay. Village People on here.
That's
that
wild,
was a
man.
fucking wacky collaboration. Cool one nonetheless, though. So unexpected. They just pop in here.
Pussy Riot's on this too.
Yeah, that's something.
I don't know if you're familiar with Pussy Riot.
Oh yeah, Pussy Riot too. What did you think of that feature?
I didn't really hear them in the track, so I'm not even sure.
It was just there. I mean, that fits pretty well with the fucking crazy Dorian Electra style.
There's a lot going on.
You know,
it's kind of hard to hear individual features.
Yeah, especially when there's so much going on in these damn tracks. It's fucking wild. Then you got back-to-back Gentleman Milady, the incel bangers. These tracks are basically just making fun of incels who are, like, you know, thinking that they're the best thing for women that's ever happened or whatnot.
Yeah, my favorite part of Milady is when Dorian says Milady is pure, and I'm just like, it's because incels only want virgins. It's like a virgin sacrifice.
Then goes back to Milady's a whore.
Yeah.
2 lines later, like, it's obviously about unrealistic expectations of women on top of that. So, you know, it's at the end of the day, though, it's pretty much just mocking incels, which is a cause I suppose we can all get behind. Definitely good stuff sound wise. The fucking funky groove on Gentleman is something, man. That was unexpected as hell.
You got Iron Fist after those 2 tracks.
Iron Fist is an absolute banger.
Some BDSM shit.
Freaky. Yeah, dude.
I'm into it. I like it.
Yeah, and that whole idea of, like, owning who you are and what your preferences are and not being ashamed of that kind of shit is definitely a big message of this album. So that's why this fits so well here. Barbie Boy, we already talked about. A sequel to Career Boy sounds a lot like it. It sounds a lot more mellow than everything on here, which almost makes it feel less interesting, I guess, but at the same time, it was a pretty good track. This one, to me, seems like it's about kind of the opposite gender side of Milady, where Milady was about, to some degree, unrealistic expectations for women, but this is the same thing for men, very possibly, I think. What do you feel on that?
I feel like that's a stretch, but I can't come up with anything better.
Yeah, because I feel like you're supposed to... It's about how, you know, sometimes they just pretend to be better than they are to win people's affection.
It's trying to be the nice
kind
guy.
of the whole you know, boys don't cry mentality or whatever. I feel like might be being attacked there.
Definitely.
But yeah, either way, I mean, Career Boy, to wrap it back around to that, was pretty much about the expectation of you have to get a career and you have to live your life a certain way. And maybe this is just like more of a personal level, not really relating to a career of the same sort of thing. So that was kind of cool. Sorry, bro, I love you. I've talked about this track at length already in a different video. Thought that this is a pretty great track, and I love the idea behind it.
It's definitely
how do you feel?
I just feel like it's just a really good like coming out track. It's like, hey,
I don't actually think that's even what's going on here. I think it's just like saying it's okay to be like saying I love you to your homies.
Kissing the homies goodnight's not gay. See?
Yeah, exactly. Because the person on the track, the narrator, whoever it might be, says no homo, like specifically. So it's obviously going for that kind of vibe. It's like saying it's okay to still say I love you even when it's not something like that. It's kind of ties back to the track before with the sort of toxic masculinity way of looking at things, where it's like you don't have to act tough just because you are a man. And I like that a lot. Thought that's pretty cool. Yeah, another cool track on here. Very short. I'm not sure if that one's shorter than the other ones or not.
Sorry, I Really Love You it's medium. I think that one of the shorter tracks is Monk Mode, which is actually up next. That's an interlude though. I don't know if I talked about
that's an interlude. Fucking crazy though. Just
dude.
Goes full deathcore.
Hell
again, just like I feel like deathcore sudden shifts are a recurring theme on this episode, but still much better one on here than the one we mentioned last time. It's super dramatic and it flows very well into Edgelord.
Oh yeah, Edgelord.
Yeah.
Rebecca Black. What? That was a surprising feature. She did an amazing job, though. It's probably one of the first times I was happy to hear Rebecca Black on a track.
Me too. I feel like she's matured a lot. I feel like this is a very good way of presenting Rebecca Black on a track, and I feel like she's far more self-aware than she used to be at one point or another. Back in the Friday days of things.
Oh my god, I remember that middle school shit. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, yeah.
Like I said earlier about the Westside, it's making fun of people who would like that Westside Gunn album, the Joker meme. We live in a society.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's totally just about Joker meme people. The opening line of the verse being "We live in a society" just kind of tells you everything you need to know about this track. But again, crazy production on this track. Just wild sounding one, as all of them are. And I feel like that really carries over to Ram It Down, the next one.
I would put Ram It Down and Give Great Thanks in the same boat, because I feel like it's just one long track, but that just is split up into two tracks. You know what I mean? When they usually go like...
And they have a totally different sound, but they follow a pretty strict narrative of front to back from there. Because, so the first one is like, you know, one of these people who's like casually homophobic seems to be the narrator of the track, where it's like, you can love whoever you want to love, but don't shove it down my throat, which is, you know, obviously the shove it down my throat part is obviously an innuendo as that becomes more and more evident throughout the entire runtime of the track.
It reminds me of a post I saw on Facebook where it was "Gay men make me sick," and one of the comments was then don't deep throat so far.
Dude, yeah. Exactly. That's so much the vibe I get from it too. I mean, the track itself sounds fucking wild. There's more metal influence on this one. It's still kind of got its, you know, dubstep synth pop shit going on to it too. Adds a lot. Really crazy sounding track, but I think that clever use of a double entendre was really fun on this one. And then it goes into Give Great Thanks, which
it's just okay. I'll
which
take
seems
this
to be
one.
the resolution our very toxic narrator has came to.
They realized they like it in the butt
and in the throat, and very submissively.
They're bottom, big bottom energy.
And this is kind of the What's up? Sorry,
It's
what'd you say?
definitely power bottom energy.
Yeah, this is kind of the exact opposite of Iron Fist. You know, that you kind of got both sides of that relationship going on here now, and an anthem for both types of people. So that's cool. Like that a lot. Yeah, and I guess that's about where it ends. So, favorite track for you?
I would have to go with Milady.
Milady? Mine is, I guess, My Agenda. But it really... I feel like that could vary at any time. For me, I like a lot of these on the same equal level. I like My Agenda a lot. I like a lot of these tracks a lot, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if I was going to pick a runner-up, I really liked Gentleman. I really liked Iron Fist, and Edgelord was another great one as well. So any one of those could become my favorite. Least favorite for you?
Iron Fist.
Wow. Okay. Well, Barbie Boy is probably mine, just because,
that's
like I said
you have a
before,
bad taste
it
in
ends up
music.
feeling.
It's because you have bad opinions.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's usually how it goes, I suppose. But I feel like it ends up being one of the less interesting ones, just because it sounds less wild, stripped back, I guess, in comparison. But it still works.
I think it gives your brain a break a little bit, which is nice, and
Yeah.
it also connects the last album.
Right, and I don't hate it at all.
I don't hate Iron Fist. This album, really, this album's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just gonna hop right out into it, there, 10 out of 10 for you. Geez, after I found that out, because you kind of let that one slip a little early, I had to put a lot of thought into it, but at the end of the day, this is still a 9 for me. But we have it right here on tape. This is Micah's first 10 out of 10 on the realm of the internet land. So let's all hear a little bit of applause here. So yeah, we really loved this one, I guess. Obviously. Yeah, I mean, I loved it too. Really great stuff on here. Next one is I Don't Know How But They Found Me with their debut album, Razzmatazz. Yeah, it's their debut album. They had an EP before.
Oh. Okay.
That was, what was it called? I can picture the album cover. It was black with like 3 little stripes. Fuck, I can't remember it. It had Choke on it. It had Absinthe. Both amazing tracks. I'm going to go ahead and look that up real fast here. We got 1981 extended play. That's right. Okay. So yeah, they have a EP that came out formerly, and that was a pretty great EP. Showed a lot of promise for this band. They have a lot of hit singles already. I mean, they just kind of came in, had somewhat of a star power name with the lead singer of this band, of the duo, that is, being a former member of Panic at the Disco. So they kind of had that much going for them, but really they managed to blow up really quickly, and I think that has a lot to do with some of these incredibly great singles that they've put out before this. I was really heavily anticipating this record. This is one of my most anticipated ones of the year for sure. I wanted to see what they were going to do on a full length after hearing that EP quite a while ago at this point. So, you know, from the perspective of somebody who's been following the band very closely for quite a while, I really loved this debut album. I think that this has some more of their best tracks ever. I think it lives up to the energy that a lot of their earlier work was displaying, and there was some really great stuff on here. I mean, what are some thoughts from you, someone who wasn't necessarily following every move of the band?
Yeah, I haven't followed the band a ton, but it was an album that I liked, and a band that I liked. I remember, wasn't it like fucking junior year when they released their first single? Because
probably.
Ever since their first single they released on Spotify, I actually haven't heard too much by them, and haven't been following them at all. It's definitely HMLTD, is that the right band? Did I say that right?
Yeah,
It's
HMLTD.
definitely those vibes. Like, if you like that band, this is definitely a good album for you. I know that's one of your 10s.
Yeah, HMLTD's last album that came out, I am very, very fond of. That was just before I started doing this channel, and I will get a moment to talk about that at some point. But I don't necessarily see the connection there. I guess you've got kind of post-punk on one end of the spectrum there, and you've got definitely a lot more like art pop kind of vibes going on this record, with some influence of rock in both records, I guess. But I think that pop rock sound that they bring to it, with an added layer of theatrical nature to it, where it's just like somewhat dramatic at almost every point. I think that it's just a really likable sound, something really fun. I just have a lot of fun listening to this album.
It's definitely easy to listen to. I'm also someone who just listens to a lot of post-punk or art pop.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, pretty different things going on there. I guess I can kind of see the connection. I mean, there's similar vocal styles, but
it just definitely has the same, like, vibe to me.
The same vibe. I mean, I suppose because both of them have a vibe that I thoroughly enjoy. I guess the theatrical nature of HMLTD might be kind of where you're making that tie, because this definitely has some like dramatic moments where it just it really has that extra added layer of over the top drama to it, and I like that a lot. It has a lot of the attitude of their earlier stuff. You know, it's got this kind of I don't want to say like badass tone to it, but just like certain smugness, I guess. Do you know what I'm talking about at all?
Kinda, I think.
Yeah, like the subtle aggression, I guess. When you think of the song Choke that they made a long time ago, where it's just like happily singing that they hope someone suffocates and dies. I mean, it's like this
shit.
that they don't necessarily give a damn some of the time. And there's some tracks that are like that, but there's also some like emotional cuts on here that I think did really well.
Yeah,
I know From the
definitely
Gallows
felt
was a
emotion.
favorite of mine in that way.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about this album, which is probably a little disappointing to you, but I don't know. I wasn't. It didn't rustle my jimmies that much.
Yeah, and I think maybe on repeated listens it would possibly.
Maybe I don't know. It's definitely something that you could just throw on and forget about. For me, then again, I'm kind of an uncultured swine when it comes to this genre, even.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really doesn't necessarily seem like your bag, but
I can tell it's definitely well produced, and they put a lot of effort, and it's a really good album. Like, they did an amazing job at producing it and writing it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really any like flaws in how it sounds for sure. So even if you aren't necessarily huge on the sound that this album presents, I guess I can totally see where you're coming from with that. So that's cool. I want to give a few nods to just a few different tracks if you don't really have anything else to add to it. I think that Nobody Likes the Opening Band is one of their best tracks yet. Really slow piano ballad, the way that this talks about, you know, giving a chance to the opening band. I thought that was a really nice sentiment on there. That was definitely one of the best ones on here, I tend to think. I think From the Gallows was another really great one for some of the same reasons. That one has some lyrics about more along the lines of like being obsessed almost. I thought it was still cool though. Sugar Pills, kind of a dark track on here, tends to be maybe going in the realm of talking about like prescription antidepressants and how maybe it wouldn't be necessarily helping and you're not sure if it's just like a placebo. Our narrator kind of seems to be having a rough time with it. I thought that song sounded kind of as dark as as it was describing, and just had this sinister aura to it. So that was kind of cool. And Door, I want to point out, is specifically being a decent interlude. It was pretty short, but it just like kind of takes you from point A to point B, and that's why Door is a really great name for it, I guess. And Razzmatazz, the closer on here. Wow, what a great track! What a great way to close it off. I mean, I have nothing else to say about this track, other than how fitting it is. You know, I mean, I could go more into detail of that, but I feel like a lot of it will just click if you give this a really solid, deep listen. As far as that closer really, really feeling great. So I guess that's what I got to say in like sort of a track breakdown kind of fashion. But yeah, so least favorite on there for you? Or
my
sorry,
least favorite,
we'll start with favorite.
Okay, my favorite was Leave Me Alone, which I actually noticed was also one of the most popular tracks off this album. That wasn't
that was
that intentional. But it's definitely like the one track that I definitely will remember and go back and listen to more off this album. Otherwise,
mine was probably I'm gonna go ahead and still give it to From the Gallows. I think that it's a really great track. Does some of the most unique stuff that they've done yet. Pretty cool stuff on there. How about least favorite for you?
My least favorite was Door.
Door? I don't know if it counts, but I'll give it to you, I guess, because it's more of an interlude. But it's still something.
Yeah.
That's cool, I guess. Kiss Goodnight is mine. I was just kind of iffy on the sound of this one, I guess. But for the most part, it was still an enjoyable track. And thinking about it, it's memorable. I can still remember more of it than I thought I would be able to. So that's really cool as well. Overall rating for you?
I think I gave it a 7. Yeah, I gave it a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10? I'm
genuinely
feeling a 9 on here. I already gave one of those. I know, but this is an anticipated album for me that didn't let me down at all. It's definitely I really see good things in this band's future.
Oh yeah, definitely. These guys are going to be everywhere. I'm surprised they aren't already.
Yeah, and they kind of are to some degree. They've definitely had some huge commercial success. And I feel like a lot of that is from like riding out the wave of Panic at the Disco. I feel like the fans of that band are now fans of I Don't Know How But They Found Me, and maybe a little bit less on Panic at the Disco. I can say that specifically for myself for sure. And I really used to be into them when I was younger, but this gives me the same kind of energy, and it's done a lot better than what Panic is doing now, or well, Brendan at this point is doing now.
Yeah,
Brendan at the Disco.
Definitely not an emo fuckboy, so I would never know about Panic. I'm just kidding. Sorry when I offended by saying that, but
yeah, I suppose. So to close it off, we got the spooky season special with clipping Visions of Bodies Being Burned.
A sequel to There Existed Addiction to Blood.
Yes. Very great album. Came out around this time last year. Was sort of a, Halloween release at that time too. This is taking the same elements of music, I guess, that they took on there, having what you would technically call horrorcore, but actually making the shit scary. One thing that I've always noticed about horrorcore, I was terribly edgy, so, of course I got into horrorcore at one time or another. It would be very gruesome, violent, and, sometimes focus on, like, actual horror elements, like things that you would see in horror movies, I guess that is. But it wouldn't ever actually be scary. And I feel like that's something that they achieved on There Existed an Addiction to Blood, but I feel like on this one in particular, they did it so much better. They did a lot of experimental things that were absolutely mind-blowingly crazy, and really made this a legitimately terrifying experience.
Yeah, I was definitely
would you? Yeah, this shit was actually legitimately frightening all the way through.
So my first listen, which if you have not heard this album yet, I recommend you do, is at like 3 a.m. Turn off all your lights and just put on some headphones and listen to this album.
Yes, absolutely. My first listen of this, I was in such a perfect setting to do so. It's 11 p.m. on Halloween night, and I had all my lights off, and the only thing you could see through to see anything in the room was genuinely the moonlight, and it was even a spooky moon because it was the second full moon in the month, so it was a blue moon. So you've got so many spooky aspects going on at once. I just made sure that the setting was right, and this spooked the fuck out of me.
Yeah, it was
in the right setting, in the right context, and even during the day, it can still be pretty spooky to listen to.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, they do some certain things on here that just end up being incredibly just spine tingling. The imagery, I feel like, is a really good part of it. I remember a lot of moments of specific imagery from There Existed an Addiction to Blood that were also like that. I think that David, as a lyricist on here, really kept it up, really did exactly what you would want on this album as far as describing something that should be, horror influence, should actually give you that scariness factor. I think that tracks like Say the Name was really good with that. One of the most interesting ones, at least for me, in the lyrics department of things was She Bad. And, She Bad, like, you typically don't think of someone being actually bad like it's a metaphor. It's kind of like saying that they're, like sexy or something like that. But this is actually just like a female killer or a ghost or something that lives in the woods, and it just ends up killing these teenagers. It's just fucking wild.
Some Friday the 13th vibes, definitely.
That one was really cool. Check the Lock was really great storytelling wise. It's about some sort of like crime boss, I guess, but he's becoming extremely paranoid that somebody's just gonna like come shoot him down, basically, and he keeps walking by his door, making sure it's locked. He's super paranoid when he's at home. He doesn't know who's gonna, come up and try to do away with him, possibly. And the fact that that's very realistic, and there are people who end up paranoid like that because of a lot of the shit that maybe they've done or just other reasons entirely, I think that track was really realistic but really great. And then another one on here, let me see, where was it? Pain Every Day was the other one I wanted to mention specifically.
That was a really good track.
Yeah, it's like an instructional for ghosts. Like it's like it almost seems like it's a ghost welcoming other people to the spirit realm and then telling them to haunt people so that they die. That one was pretty wild. Yeah, do you have any specific standout moments you wanted to mention?
A standout track was Body for the Pile.
Oh yeah.
And it was, here, let me find this. It was Witchboard and 96 Nev Campbell. The interlude with that track, it just...
Oh yeah, the knock sample, and then the scream, that they kept going on through there. That's cool. Yeah. That was such a cool moment. Yeah, so early on in the album too. There's already something really cool like that going on. Yeah, and I appreciated the sonic diversity and just the experimentation on the, like, just this is a hip hop song side of things as well. That I thought was really cool.
Excellent choice in features.
Like the first real song on here being Say the Name. You've got this almost club-like loop going on with that Ghetto Boy sample that is where the title comes from. It says candlesticks in the dark, visions of bodies being burned, and it's just on this loop. It's pitch shifted really low, sounds super spooky, but it's still catchy. I think we talked about that before. Yeah. That works really well. That's one for sure. There's a moment for me that I wanted to specifically point out as well. The invocation, I think, Yeah, Invocation Interlude. So it's just this high-pitched sound, right? And Greg Stewart appears to be who orchestrated this one. I looked it up, and he's some sort of like experimental sound guy where he just like does sound experiments or something along that lines. Whatever. I hadn't heard of the name, so I looked him up. That track is fucking wild for me. It just like almost sent me into a panic attack the first time I heard it, because like, what the fuck is this sound? It's so weird how unsettling it is. I mean, I asked you if you had that same experience with it, and did you ever?
I don't think it hit me like did you, but I definitely heard it. I understood what was happening, and I understood what it was for. So, like, half, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, there's something I can't really explain about this track and the way that it made me just fucking panic.
It's something you have to listen to.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it'll click for you like it does for me if you're yet to hear this interlude, but wow, it's just something about it. Beyond that, just every track on here does something extremely interesting. I mean, I can't remember which one it was offhand. Was it Eaten Alive? That kind of like sounded like it was a bunch of like silverware almost. Yeah, it was. It was Eaten Alive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got the like darker one that follows right away after with Body for the Pile. That one's the one with the horror feature, I think. Which horror is pretty cool. Correct. No, that's Looking Like Me. Never mind. Body for the Pile was with close. Sickness. Yeah. And then it all ends on this secret piece, little like sound piece where it's just like, it sounds like the woods or something, just something out in nature, and it just gives you this like dark, almost swamp picture just based on these sounds. And I feel like, you know, this just seems like a place that you'd go dump a body in. It just fits so well at the end of this album.
Oh yeah, dude, definitely.
And it mirrors the piano being burned track at the end of the last album.
Yeah, I was about to say that actually.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've listened to this a few different times now already. I have a really, really great experience with it every time. I think it's one of the most unique albums I've heard just in general. The production elements on here are crazy. The technical skill, the writing, and again, his writing is really unique. Just all the talent behind David on this record, and just so many interesting ideas all over this thing. And the way that they finally made a horrorcore album that's actually legitimately just chilling to listen to. So good. I mean, I've got nothing else to say about it. I feel like we've covered our ground on here for the most part.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, any other thoughts on this one at all?
No, I just felt like great album, great features, made all the right decisions.
Hell yeah. Favorite track?
96 Nev Campbell.
Alright, I have mine as Say the Name. I don't even know, man. Maybe? We'll go with that, maybe? That was a pretty good one, for sure. There's so many possible ones for me. I have that down as Eaten Alive, again.
Me too.
Okay. I guess we're at a common ground with that one. I feel like that was one of the few on here that wasn't absolutely perfect, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was a hard choice. I spent a lot of time. It was difficult to find one.
Yeah.
At least favorite. Which is good.
Yeah, right, exactly. It takes me listening through this album to really find any points in it where I'm like, maybe this is a little bit more stale than the track before it, because nothing seems in excess while you're listening to it. It all seems like it all has its place. And that's pretty, good to say for the length of this thing. I mean, it's 52 minutes long, and there's definitely not a bad track on it. I mean, you got
impressive.
You got perfect tracks and you got almost perfect tracks all over it. Which is pretty impressive for sure. I think impressive is just one of the best things to say about this. So yeah, rating wise, what do you think?
I would have to give it a 9. It's really close to a 10. It's really hard not to give it a 10, but I feel like, I don't know, it doesn't have the 10 vibe, and I don't know how well it will age. And it's definitely doing better because of Halloween. Like, if you release this album in fucking March, it wouldn't be nearly as impactful.
You know, this is one that's going to have to sit with me for a little while for me to finalize my opinion on it, because my first initial reaction, I came out of that album and went, holy shit, that's one of the best things I've ever listened to. Easy 10 out of 10 is what I looked at with that one.
Me too.
But now I am noticing certain very brief moments where I'm like, I'm not enjoying this as much as I could. And again, 52 minutes, doesn't have a bad track, which is still incredibly impressive, but I feel like it still could have been better. You know, just in a couple very quick spots. And maybe those will go away on repeated listens. I'm probably going to listen to this another 30 to 50 times by the end of the year. And I guess my placement on that list will kind of tell you how it ends up changing for me, this late in the game. But for now, extremely strong 9. Like, very strong 9. You know, I'm looking at like 98% if we're gonna go on that metric. So yeah, I can't think of any better way to close off this first episode of the podcast. Again, thank you for sticking around to the end of this. If you did, we appreciate having you here. All of the episodes in the future are going to be a little bit shorter than this, but they'll be coming to you on a weekly basis. So I think we had a really great time here. Anything you want to say before we cut the album, or before we cut the podcast?
Cut the album, yeah. If you guys have any ways we can improve or any albums you want us to listen to, just leave it in the comments.
Yeah, if you have any suggestions as far as topics to cover on our in-between weeks, or even just some guests that would be, reasonable and possible to get on the show, let us know of that as well. Think that would be really cool. And yeah, I guess that's what we got on here for you. So we will see you next week with a recap of some of the albums that are currently coming out, some of the stuff that will be coming out on the day that you saw this, as well as some of the stuff from the week before. We're talking Ariana Grande, we're talking Bring Me the Horizon. There's going to be some other great surprises to throw in there as well. So make sure to tune back in for us tomorrow at Friday, and we will catch you there. Thank you very much for watching.
This has been Ben and Micah with Pass the Podcast. See you next time.
Yes, we will. Bye-bye.